topic for the week has been goals, right? Like setting our goals, understanding what we want our goals to be. And for those of you that weren't on the call yesterday, a lot of it is just understanding how do you plan correctly for your goals. And it can't just be to put something on a board and mystically pray that this is going to happen, because we all know that that doesn't work. It didn't work for me. It can get you so far, but it's not a powerful tool. It's impossible. Hoping and dreaming about something versus taking action and laying out steps. Just like a pilot will never, ever be able to take the plane just by sitting in it and up into the sky unless they follow a checklist. And they do that whether they just started as a pilot or they've been flying airlines for 30 years. It doesn't matter. There has to be a process. So as we were talking about always building a who, what, when, where, why, and how around what we're looking to achieve, today what I wanted to do was, we get so caught up in the things that we want to start building that our lives just start to implode on ourselves, and we become so self-important because we're panicking. And the panic, unfortunately, in comparison to the way our ancestors grew up, where, you know, lions and tigers and dinosaurs and whatever, and UFOs, I don't know what was chasing them at the time, but we would think that whatever was going on in our world, if there was fear, it would usually mean we could potentially die. And that's just not the case anymore. But we don't understand what fear really is, or what these emotions we're going through really are, as we're working to expand our lives. So there was, you know, as I started to consider building this community, that meant I had to step away from real estate to a degree. And that caused a dysfunction in my internal wiring, because how I lived my life every day was around real estate. And then once I started to shift it, I had this internal feeling that I didn't know if it's fear, panic, anxiousness, unknown, whatever it is, but I wasn't really, as Benny and I talked offline yesterday, and one thing I said resonated with him, and he keeps thinking about it all the time, which is emotional fitness, right? And a lot of people talk about emotional intelligence. Oh, they really understand the emotions and they can make sense of things. Well, when you have emotional fitness, that means you're working out a muscle all the time. That muscle becomes strong. And because that muscle becomes strong, then it doesn't hurt as much when you're put through the ringer with certain things. And I just want you to pay attention that as we're going through everything that we do in life, what does that feel like? How scary is it? When you want to implement something new, when you want to make a directional change in life, you're not going to die. But yet, have you planned around it? And Anas, when he was on the call yesterday, we were talking about real estate and what was going on in his mind. Well, he feels like he's starting from square one. And it's got this feeling of, what do I do? And how many things do I implement? And what's going to work? So there's panic in our head. And we're just exuding this energy of, I don't know. You start to just go inward. You're not really functioning. You start carrying this level of, whether it's sadness, misery, being unsure, all of these things, and you start to question yourself. And the thing is, again, for those of you that know me, I've been in residential real estate for 30 years. And I've always been exceptional and always recognized as a top agent wherever I was in any city, whether it was in Canada or over here, always. But yet I didn't believe in myself. And so when shit would falter, or I would self-destruct and not want to do work at the capacity that I was doing it, I would just let myself implode. But then I could always rebuild it again. Same thing Benny and I were talking about offline yesterday. It's almost like, do we need this stupid rush of like feeling and anxiety and anxiousness? And we don't. Obviously we don't. But sometimes that race, you know, from the starting line, being in the starting blocks again and waiting for the gun to fire, is that feeling that we think is what's going to propel us. And that's a load. You know, the lucky favors the prepared. It just does. And so today, what I wanted to focus on is help somebody else achieve their goals. Forget about yourself for a second. Understand what it's like to just put that fear aside, because that fear is not real. You're all champions. You're all here, right? We have some newer guests now showing up, but you're all champions. You've all succeeded in life. You are all still here, and every single one of you has had monumental challenges in your life, myself included. And I've had a lot, but yet a lot of people don't know when I'm suffering because of the emotional fitness. So what I want you to understand is, as we're now on these Zoom calls, I want you to start paying attention to the daily activity chart that I shared with you. And I'm going to keep harping on that, because as we start to go through those things, exercising, meditating, journaling, giving, right, all of those things, you start to recognize how much greater your capacity is than you're currently living, period. We can do so much. And that Monday and Friday coaching form that I have in the Facebook site as well allows you to see where you want to go in a month, understand what you have to do, who you have to be, and also realistically what's going to get in your way. And then once you start paying attention to, hey man, this is just a process. And I'll say it all the time. Jocko Willink, former Navy SEAL, always said that if you have a routine, that equals success. Routines equal success, because you will be able to achieve things in small doses. For those of you who know John Maxwell, that guy's written, I think, over 70 books. And if you've ever listened to John Maxwell, what does he talk about? And this guy's all about giving. He created an entire coaching community where the coaches have to come and understand how to be selfless before they can go back out into the community. So it's not just about them. But if you've ever heard his voice, he's like, every day, I write every day. And people are like, on your birthday? Every day. What about when you're on vacation? I write every day. And he talks like that. And I love him for it. And it sounds so simple, yet we get in our own way. And every day could just mean 5 words, 5 pages of reading a book. It doesn't even matter. It's just that we can literally chunk away at anything. And if you do anything long enough, what'll happen? There'll be a level of mastery, you'll finish, you'll feel complete. You'll actually feel like you've gained another level within yourself, and you have a gear that you don't exercise or pay attention to. So that's why that I'm saying today, as we're looking at all the things that we're struggling to implement in our life, is our life bigger than everybody else's? And that's up to you, right? That's totally up to you. That's your decision. I used to think that way, that I was too self-important to make time, have time, think about time. All my time was spent. But there was a Tony Robbins Unleash the Power Within that I went to years ago. And if you look at his shrinking bullseye, it's really all about giving, right? At the end of the day, like, I'm pouring my heart and soul into all of you and talking about my own suffering and how I've come through it and how emotional fitness has helped me become strong in my foundation so that I can step out of myself. The world isn't burning down. There is nothing that's going to kill me or destroy me. My clients will be there if I don't respond in 10 minutes. If I send them a text that says I'm tied up for a few hours, that's okay. But being able to just give, being able to actually pay attention to other people, being able to step out of you're the most important person in the room, in the city, in this hemisphere, on this universe, whatever it is, we've all been there. And I've been there. I lived there. I used to live there. And that place got me nowhere. I was on a desolate island by myself because I burned enough bridges with people. So when I show up for my clients. Right now, I'm in a space where I'm at my professional meeting and there's 30 people in a room. And I excused myself 8 minutes early so I could be here for all of you. And there were 5 testimonials that were given to me in front of that room, because that's what we do. We share the experiences. And when you hear how other people see you because of who you are and what you do for others, where I've worked to make what I do selfless, not about what's in it for me. And when you hear people say these things that we don't often even say to ourselves about ourselves, right? And one of the topics we're going to get to in the future calls is about celebrating ourselves, because we don't do it, or we don't do it often enough, or we don't give ourselves credit, right? In real estate, yeah, we had to pass a pretty simple test to get licensed, but we did it. We still had to do that. When we closed our first transaction, we did it. When we have a repeat client, why on earth did they work with us? Again, there was something about us that laid a foundation for an experience that they cherish us more than we cherish ourselves. And that is garbage. It starts with, who are you? What do you have to give? How selfless do you know you are? But then again, as you're working your goals, that's why I'm creating this community in this room, so we can all help each other grow. But then as we step out of this world is about me, and we discover, right, what goals are for other people. Michael Mayer, who's one of my favorite real estate coaches, who wrote a book called The 7 Levels of Communication, which I think you should all read because it's amazing. He built an entire company, and he called it the Gen. So generosity generation is what he called it. And he built everything on generosity. And then he also built a secondary company called Refer Co. I don't have to tell you what that means. It's all about referrals. And he literally built an entire business where he does hundreds of transactions, literally, because things are pouring into him because he's poured out to the world. So what I want to express to you is, you're not important enough to just make every day and every minute and every hour about yourself. And we are going to be here, and I am going to help you step out of a lot of different areas that you try to protect yourself in, because the one thing I can guarantee you is there's no such thing as certainty. There just isn't. You could have a transaction closing in 5 minutes from now and it closes, but then within a few hours, that title, if it hasn't recorded with the county, can be unwound. So even when you think something is done in real estate, it isn't. It can still be unwound. So my point is if you just pour everything into your emotions and thinking that you're the most self-important person in the room, that's up to you. But when you start focusing on how can I help other people, and this is where I was going with Michael Mayer's acronym, which is FROG. When you talk to people, family, recreation, occupation, and then goals. What are you trying to achieve? And when you literally step into whoever you're talking to, into their life to that capacity, and then you make it part of your mission at some point that day or within that week or within that month to help them implement that goal. You knew somebody or something or whatever it is that could literally help them, but they didn't know about it. And you stepped outside of yourself for a minute and you helped somebody else achieve. Do you think that person's ever going to desert you or not talk highly about you or fight to get you a referral? Right? So we can literally create an entire world just by not thinking about what's in it for me. And so I just wanted to, hear from you on some of these experiences as to, what your goals are, but also something where you may have stepped out of yourself to think about others first and what happened. What happened? And I'm looking for a positive or a negative excuse, because it doesn't mean that this is always going to work out. You might do something for someone and they never acknowledge it. And then do you go back internally and go, but I'm never going to do anything for them again. They're not, they're not deserving. Well, deserving of what? Right? That's back to you and your ego again. Oh, they didn't buy a house from me when they resold. Those sons of bitches, right? If I'm on Facebook and I'm reading through some of those areas in like, hey, my best friend bought a house through another agent and they know I sell real estate. And then you see hundreds of comments from other people going, drop them as a friend, they're not this, they're not that. And it's just like, everything is accusatory. It's like, first of all, maybe your friend didn't want to work with you because you could suck. I don't know, right? Or maybe they didn't want to work with you because they didn't want to tarnish the relationship. I don't know. But we make it about ourselves. And that's what I'm trying to have you realize is, as we're building our future, as we're working to expand our capacity, as we're working to put our ego in our back pocket and sit on it and not pay attention to it, as you start doing things without panicking in life that there's not enough in it for me, or I don't know where my next deal is coming from, man, it will just mysteriously show up. And I can't tell you how many times that's happened in my career. Benny, I know you could talk about this. Anas, Jody Lynn, you get phone calls, right? Every one of you that is in some way, shape, or form an entrepreneur, which we all are on this call, just all of a sudden happens. And we don't know where it came from. Just your phone rang. So, oh, sure, I'll list that house. Or yeah, I'll help that buyer. Or whatever it is. It just shows up if you're doing the work. But we panic, right? Because there is no certainty. And people can say all these systems and everything will have leads come in, and that's great. Leads come in, you still have to work to convert them. And they still take time. You have to build a relationship. But imagine you're talking to a total stranger. You discover what's going on in their world, what they want. You hear something that they need help with. and then you help them outside of real estate. Is that a client for life? Is that a referral partner for life? Is that a walking billboard for you? Literally because you helped other people achieve. And I'm not saying neglect yourself, but I'm saying it's not all about you. So if we have one or two stories, positive or negative, I'm good with that. And I can all see your smiling faces now. So if anybody wants to take the lead, that's great. If in 3 seconds there's silence, I'm pulling on one of you. So I'll open it up. 1, 2, 3. Antoinette, let's go. You're a newer member, so it's okay. And remember, there's no judgment in this room, and this is a very vulnerable room. So there is no, oh my God, I said the wrong thing. There's nothing like that here. Please understand that.
Okay, so you want to know a situation where I helped someone, or?
Yeah, just selflessly, and what happened. Whether it was good or bad, that's not important. It's just that you did something. And I want to hear a story that you remember, because these are the things I believe we need to draw from more regularly that we don't.
Is it on a personal note or a professional? Just
anything you want.
Okay. So I don't know if you know, but I'm from New York, and I did real estate back there. I was doing really well, and I helped a couple of friends out. And financially, then once it was like the tables turned, no one's there.
And how did that make you feel? What went through you when you experienced that?
It made me feel bad, like, because I know that they had it, and like when I did it, I wasn't looking for a return. But I'm just like, now that I'm in this position, no one's there. So I feel like wow, we're not as cool as I thought we were. Or once I get back up there, I'm never helping them. So like the same thing you said, even though that's a negative, but you said I shouldn't feel like that, but that's how I felt. Like I'm keeping my money in my pocket this time.
Yeah. And
so
and with something like that, unfortunately, those moments taint us, right? They hinder us from wanting to do it again, because of, like, you in a sense lose faith for humanity.
right.
But is that realistic in all scenarios? And the answer is no.
Right.
But it unfortunately also showed you who they are. But fortunately, now you have a decision to make whether or not you keep them as friends, and were they friends in the first place, right?
Right.
So these situations really shine light on people's character, but it shouldn't shine light on changing your character. That's my point, right?
Right. Mm-hmm.
If you have to put yourself on a limb and suffer for giving to somebody else, right? If you're doing that, that's a question you have to ask yourself, if you're willing to do something at that point. But if you're willing to financially help people, then you have to know that you have the money, and you also have to be willing to risk losing it, right?
Right.
And that's the thing that we don't think about. It's like, oh, I'll get it back, no problem. And you probably did, but then when you found yourself in a position, they were emotionally checked out, and they didn't really pay attention to, hey, how are you suffering, right?
Exactly. Mm-hmm.
So I would just expand on that. And again, just rekindle your faith in humanity, because not all people are like that, but people can demonstrate their character, and then you get to choose who you want to surround yourself with. And this room is a room where we can talk about all those things. Doesn't mean everyone's going to lend you money here, right? But
No.
right?
Yeah, I don't want it. I just
But
yeah.
we get an opportunity to talk about it. Exactly. And be honest about it, because I know what it's done for me when I felt like somebody should have repaid me for things that I've done to them. And when you hold that emotion, it's a venomous emotion to carry with you, because there's spite in there as well, right?
Right.
And that is not fun to carry around when you're feeling spiteful, or when you get knocked down in your belief in humanity, right? And it's unfortunate, but it will happen again in another way. It might not be around money, right? So that's my point, is, again, you have to build your foundation for you so that other people can't derail you.
Exactly. Okay. Thanks.
For sure. All right, we have time for one more if anybody wants to open up. If not, I'm going to call on you. 1, 2, 3, Johnny.
I've got another not necessarily positive experience that very closely mimics what Antoinette was just speaking of. A couple of years back, I was in a very good spot. A friend of mine was in a very hard spot, and I loaned him quite a lot of money, which he took and vanished with after promising to pay things back, and did not, and haven't lent money to anybody since. But to something else that you spoke of, it's important to not martyr ourselves as we do it. So while I might not be willing to lend that person time, money, influence, assistance, again, it doesn't mean that nobody in my circle gets that.
Right.
And remembering that that was a reflection of that person and not necessarily a personal failing. Don't get me wrong, I missed that money. That was a lot of money and I didn't
Sure.
have it to lose. But that's not a reflection on everybody I meet. That's not a reflection on the people in this room. That's not a reflection on the random person that I pass on the street, right? If somebody is in help or in need of help, I still think I'm the kind of person that is better for being able to help when I can.
And we can all see that on Johnny's face, right? Look at that boy. I wish I could pinch your cheek right now, Johnny.
Thank you, Steve.
Right? But why am I talking about this kind of stuff? And because we carry around so much emotional weight. And what I want this community to understand in the way I see blending all of us here, even though it's more like, okay, we're working to expand our mindset. All of this stuff transfers into our business life. I want you to understand that. Like, you might be thinking, well, how might this be relevant to growing my business? Or I want to think more about the entrepreneurial set and all those things. What we all forget is that I don't care if you're wearing a suit, a hoodie, a pair of shorts, a tank top, if you're just at the beach. I don't care who you are, what levels you've reached, you're the richest person in the world. That person is still a person. And when you can identify with people outside of how they're defined, right? Benny, I think you posted this, right? Hey, why does a guy always ask a guy what he does or how much he makes and all that stuff, right? And there is this just definition of who's got the bigger beep, right? And all this stuff. And sometimes people measure themselves that way. But those are infantile people, right? Those are people that, I mean, that's not who you want to work with. When you think about professionals you want to work with, you want people that are just humans. And oh, by the way, this is what I do for a profession. But who they are as a human being is who they are as a human being. And humans work with humans that they like. I don't care if you are like the biggest rock star in real estate. I remember there was an expired listing that I went on back in Canada early in my career. And I pulled up in a Volkswagen Jetta that I had and was talking to the people and they liked me. And they ended up listing their house with me. And they said, do you know if you would have pulled up in a BMW, we would have turned you away? I'm like, what? Right? Because of how we see things and then the stories that we tell ourselves around those things. But what did a car mean to those people? And it made them think that I was some slick salesman who was just there to take their money. And we create stories. So instead of creating a story, just remember that every single person is suffering, right? Every single person has a degree of suffering. If you can tap into who people are for real, behind the suit or the dress or the makeup or the flashy haircut or whatever it is, or the car or the penthouse, like if you realize who that person is and you can see who they are by the way they live, right? You can see that about people. Then you can meet the best referral attorneys in the world. You can get into the best wealth manager's office in the world. Just be you. And when you're sitting in a room that you feel small in, why? You're just another human being. Just because this other person might have monumental success only means that they worked a little bit differently than you, but you don't know where they are in their level of suffering in life or what they're going through. And then the next thing you know, you see that person getting a divorce and they're selling all their assets and, you know, all this shit. And I'm listening to this book now about the monk who sold his Ferrari. And it's this very, very successful attorney. And he had a heart attack in court, right? He had everything that you could see physically, Ferrari, mansion, he had everything. But then he let it all go when he realized that there's more to life. So my point is when you leave this room, you're going to go out there as a human being, dressed up as a insurance, real estate, credit repair, whatever, right? We're dressing up to go play our part. But at the end of the day, we're still us. So when you go out into your day today, understand that other people that you're meeting are suffering. They're just not talking about it. Or there are things that they're looking for. And it's your job, if you want, to uncover them. Because if you have that kind of a conversation with someone, That's an authentic conversation. You're discussing, I'm a realtor, I do this, it's irrelevant. Honest to God, it's irrelevant. And if you don't even bring up work, by the end of the meeting, they will go, we never got a chance to talk about, it's like, okay. And that's for real. So I just want you to go out there today and understand that get past your own fear. You're not going to die. Get past the anxiety of where's my next deal coming from. If you're hustling, if you're hunting, if you're working on laying the seeds, it will come. Sometimes you might have to work harder. If you're not doing anything, I can't fix that. That's up to you. But if you're doing things and you keep expanding on things, the people that you meet, get into their world. Once you get into their world, they will know you. When people know you, they will give you. Don't expect it, but that's just what we do. So think about that for yourself. When you go out there and crush it, make your phone calls a little bit differently. Have your conversations a little bit different. Understand where people are at. Share with them on a level that's like, wow. And then you can commiserate over things, right? And then by the end of it, oh, can we do this again? Or when can we meet? Oh, I love this, right? I don't know, but I know that that's what's happened for me when I flipped from being the completely selfish guy to I don't want to think about what's in it for me at all. And by doing that, it frees me up to just do instead of I'm waiting, right? I'm waiting for something. When are they going to ask me about real estate? I kind of heard they were going to sell their house. Why haven't they brought that up yet? Right? Now it's about me. Doesn't need to be. So, all right, guys, go kick some ass. Pay attention to helping other people achieve their goals. Get into the Facebook page. Look at those forums that are there. And I'm going to be harping on this every day because I want you to expand what you believe your actual capacity is and explode it into something that you can't believe was possible, but I'll tell you it is because I'm doing it. And I'm no different than any one of you. There's no I don't have a magic power. I just get up early. That's it. That's my magic power. I find more time in the morning. All right, everyone. I will catch you tomorrow. Go kick ass. Make somebody else's dreams come true. I'll talk to you soon.